What if one small, almost invisible moment on stage was never meant to be seen, yet ended up saying more than an entire performance? That night, what was supposed to be a grand, electrifying concert slowly transformed into something far more intimate and far more mysterious. The cheers didn't disappear, but they softened as if the entire arena could sense a shift before anyone could explain it. At the center of it all stood two figures the world knows well, and side by side under a narrowing beam of white light, they looked exactly as expected, yet somehow completely different. Jungkook carried his usual intensity, dressed in dark tones that matched the seriousness in his eyes. Taehyung, calm and almost unreadable, stood with an elegance that felt distant, like he was present, but also somewhere else entirely. The music flowed softly, almost like it was giving space for something unplanned to happen. And then, without any dramatic build-up, it did. Jungkook slowly lifted his hand and placed it on Taehyung's shoulder. It wasn't choreography. It wasn't exaggerated. It was quiet, controlled, and strangely deliberate. But in that silence, the gesture echoed louder than any lyric. For a brief second, the performance stopped feeling like a performance at all. Jungkook didn't look away immediately. His gaze lingered, not as a performer checking his mark, but as someone searching, watching, trying to say something without words. It was subtle but undeniable. He was there in a way that felt personal, not professional. Taehyung, on the other hand, didn't react the way many expected. No visible surprise, no soft smile, no acknowledgement that the moment had shifted. Instead, he remained composed, almost too composed. His expression stayed steady, his eyes forward, as if he had already decided long before stepping onto that stage that nothing would break his focus. And somehow, that made the moment even heavier around them. The atmosphere changed. Not dramatically, not in a way that could be pointed out easily, but enough to be felt. The crowd, once loud and unified, seemed to fall into a strange kind of awareness. Thousands of people, yet a silence lingered between the sounds. Even off-stage, reactions began to form. In the VIP section, familiar faces connected to Taehyung, often referred to as the Wooga Squad, watched closely. Their expressions weren't exaggerated, but they weren't casual either. There was a tension there, focus, as if they too understood that something small had just become significant. Within minutes, clips of the moment spread across platforms. Fans replayed it over and over, slowing it down, analyzing every frame. Words like unspoken, emotional, and different began to appear again and again. Some called it a powerful display of friendship. Others felt something deeper, something unresolved. Because in the world of K-pop, especially on a stage as controlled as theirs, moments like that rarely happen by accident. Every movement is usually planned, every interaction rehearsed. So, when something feels spontaneous, it stands out. As the performance continued, the energy didn't return to what it had been before. It moved forward. Yes, songs changed, lights brightened, choreography intensified, but something underneath remained different. Jungkook seemed slightly softer after that. Not enough to disrupt the show, but enough to notice. His movements, once sharp and purely performance-driven, carried a hint of hesitation, like there was something still on his mind. Taehyung stayed steady, consistent, almost untouched by the shift that everyone else seemed to feel. But sometimes calmness isn't emptiness, it's control. And that control can hide more than it reveals. Later in the performance, they found themselves close again. Not touching this time, not repeating the earlier moment, but proximity alone was enough. Jungkook's body subtly angled toward Taehyung almost instinctively. And then it happened again, something small, almost invisible. Taehyung glanced just for a fraction of a second. But in that glance there was something layered. Not confusion, not discomfort, but something quieter, something like acknowledgement, like a conversation that didn't need to happen out loud because it already had long before that night. Back in the crowd, no one could fully agree on what it meant. Some believed it was simply two artists supporting each other under pressure. Others felt it hinted at something deeper behind the scenes. Emotions, conversations, or tensions that the public would never fully see. Rumors, as always, began to grow. Talk of earlier discussions, unseen moments before the show, and possible emotional weight carried onto the stage. None were confirmed, yet all were compelling. But the truth is, not every moment is meant to be explained. Sometimes what makes something powerful is exactly that. It resists definition. As the concert moved toward its final act, the atmosphere softened again. The tension didn't disappear, but it settled into something quieter and reflective, the kind of feeling that lingers even as the music reaches its end. When the final song faded and the members stood together once more, everything looked normal. Smiles returned, voices steadied, and the performance closed exactly as expected. But for those who were paying attention, something had changed. Because somewhere between that single touch and that final bow, a story had been told. Not through words, not through choreography, but through pauses, glances, and decisions not to react. And maybe that's why the moment stayed, not because it was loud, but because it was quiet enough to feel real. Yet, even after the final bow, the questions didn't fade, they multiplied. Long after they left the stage, the moment continued to live on. Not just in recordings, but in the minds of those who witnessed it. Fans didn't just remember what happened. They felt it lingering like an unfinished sentence waiting for meaning. Backstage, no official statement came. No clarification, no acknowledgement. And in an industry where even the smallest details are often addressed, the silence itself became part of the story. Clips kept resurfacing, each time revealing something new. A slight shift in an expression, a barely noticeable pause in movement. Details so small they could be dismissed, yet too precise to completely ignore. Fans began connecting dots, not just from that night, but from past performances, interviews, and interactions. Moments that once seemed ordinary were now being revisited under a different lens, as if this single gesture had unlocked a deeper layer of their dynamic. Some pointed out how Jungkook had been unusually expressive that evening, not outwardly, but internally. His eyes carried something heavier, something more present than usual. It wasn't sadness, but it wasn't lightness either. It was something in between. Taehyung, meanwhile, remained an enigma. His ability to maintain composure only added to the intrigue, because sometimes the strongest emotions are the ones that never fully surface. Speculation grew, but so did reflection. Many fans began to shift their perspective, not asking what happened, but what did it mean to them? And in that shift, the narrative became less about answers and more about understanding. Because perhaps the moment was never meant to be decoded. Perhaps it wasn't a message for the world, but a moment shared between two people who have spent years growing, changing, and navigating a life far more complex than what is seen on stage. The presence of industry figures that night only added weight to that idea. Performing under constant observation, under expectations, and under structure, yet still, something genuine slipped through. And maybe that's what made it unforgettable. In a world built on precision and perfection, authenticity stands out, not because it's louder, but because it feels different. It disrupts the pattern, even if only for a second. That single touch, that brief glance, it didn't need explanation, it didn't need confirmation. Its impact came from the fact that it existed at all. As days passed, newer performances came and new content filled timelines. And yet, that moment refused to disappear. It became a reference point, something fans would return to, not for answers but for feeling. Some began to see it as a reminder that behind the global fame, the flawless stages, and the carefully crafted images, there are still human emotions that can't always be scripted. And maybe that's why it resonated so deeply, because it wasn't perfect, it wasn't clear, and it wasn't defined. But it was real enough to make thousands of people pause at the same time and feel something they couldn't quite explain. In the end, the stage lights turned off, the music stopped, and the night officially came to a close. But somewhere in that quiet space between what was shown and what was hidden, the story continued, unspoken, unfinished, and still unfolding.